As the 2025 political landscape takes shape, one of the most talked about policy proposals comes from former President Donald Trump. He has made it clear that if he returns to office, a top priority from day one would be to carry out mass deportations of undocumented immigrants living in the United States. This isn't a minor policy tweak, it's a plan for a swift and large-scale operation aimed at removing millions of people. The idea is to use federal and local law enforcement to find and expel individuals who do not have legal status, a move that would represent one of the most aggressive immigration enforcement actions in modern U.S. history. The logistics alone are massive, raising questions about feasibility and resources. The scale of this proposal is what really sets it apart. While past administrations have focused on deporting immigrants with criminal records or recent border crossers, Trump's plan appears much broader, potentially targeting anyone without legal papers, regardless of how long they have lived in the country or their ties to the community. This includes people who have been working, raising families, and paying taxes in the U.S. for years, sometimes even decades. The implementation would require immense coordination between various government agencies, and its rapid execution is a central feature of the proposal. The goal, as stated, is to fundamentally change the demographic and labor landscape of the country in a very short amount of time. This ambitious plan has ignited a fierce debate, with supporters arguing it is necessary for national security and the rule of law. They believe it would restore order to the immigration system and protect American jobs. On the other side, critics and experts raise alarms not just about the human cost, but also about the potential for severe economic disruption. They argue that removing such a large number of people from the country all at once could send shockwaves through the economy, affecting everything from the food we eat to the homes we live in. The discussion is no longer just about immigration policy, it's about the fundamental mechanics of the U.S. economy. Understanding the potential consequences requires looking beyond the political rhetoric and into the data. Economists, industry leaders, and social scientists are now modeling what might happen if millions of people were suddenly removed from the workforce and consumer base. Their analyses point to a series of interconnected risks that could impact every American, not just the immigrants themselves. The core of the issue lies in the fact that undocumented immigrants are not just residents. They are deeply embedded in the economic fabric of the nation as workers, consumers, and taxpayers. Their sudden absence would create a vacuum that would be difficult, if not impossible, to fill quickly. Undocumented immigrants play a crucial, though often unseen, role in the U.S. economy. They are a significant part of the labor force, especially in industries that form the backbone of daily American life. Think about the food on your table. A large percentage of the workers who plant, pick, and process fruits and vegetables in the agricultural sector are undocumented. Without them, farms would struggle to harvest their crops, leading to less food being available. Similarly, the construction industry relies heavily on immigrant labor to build homes, offices, and roads. These are physically demanding jobs that often have trouble attracting enough native-born workers to meet the high demand. The hospitality sector, which includes hotels, restaurants, and food service, is another area where undocumented workers are essential. They are the cooks, dishwashers, and cleaning staff who keep these businesses running smoothly, allowing Americans to dine out and travel. The same is true for care services. Many American families depend on undocumented immigrants to provide affordable childcare, which allows parents to go to work or to care for elderly relatives, offering them comfort and support in their later years. In these roles, they are not just filling jobs, they are providing services that enable others to participate more fully in the economy. The reason these workers are so prevalent in certain sectors is often a matter of simple supply and demand. These industries frequently have more job openings than there are available workers, especially for physically demanding or less glamorous positions. Undocumented workers fill this critical gap, taking on roles that are vital for the economy to function, but may be hard to staff otherwise. Their contribution helps keep businesses open and services affordable. For example, a shortage of construction workers could make it more expensive to build new houses, while a lack of farm workers could directly increase the price of groceries at your local supermarket. It's a common misconception that these workers take jobs away from American citizens. Many economic studies suggest that they often fill different types of jobs, complementing the native-born workforce rather than competing directly with it. By filling labor shortages in key areas, they allow businesses to grow and expand, which can, in turn, create other types of jobs. The economic reality is that for decades, these industries have structured themselves around the availability of this labor pool. Removing it suddenly would be like taking a critical component out of a complex machine. The entire system would be at risk of grinding to a halt. If millions of undocumented workers were deported, the most immediate effect would be a severe labor shortage. Industries like agriculture, construction, and hospitality would face a sudden and massive loss of their workforce. Imagine construction sites across the country falling silent because there are not enough workers to continue building. Or picture farms with crops rotting in the fields because no one is there to harvest them. Experts predict that native-born workers would be unlikely to fill all these newly empty jobs, at least not right away. This gap between demand for labor and the supply of workers would trigger a cascade of economic problems. With fewer workers available, businesses would have to compete for the ones who remain, likely by offering higher wages. While that might sound good for workers, it would also mean higher costs for businesses. To stay profitable, these companies would have no choice but to pass those increased labor costs onto consumers in the form of higher prices. The cost of building a new home would rise, making housing even less affordable. The price of a meal at a restaurant would go up. Even the cost of basic groceries could increase significantly. This widespread price hike is what economists call inflation, and it would reduce the purchasing power of every American. Economists have warned that this scenario could push the U.S. economy toward a recession. A sharp drop in labor would mean a drop in overall economic output, measured as gross domestic product, or GDP. Some analyses project that the U.S. GDP could shrink by trillions of dollars. At the same time, rising prices could create a difficult situation known as stagflation, a toxic mix of a stagnant economy and high inflation. While experts are not predicting the kind of hyperinflation seen in other countries, some reports suggest consumer prices could rise by as much as 9% more than they otherwise would, making life more expensive for everyone. The problem would not be limited to just a few industries. The economic disruption would ripple outward, affecting the entire supply chain. For instance, a slowdown in construction would impact suppliers of lumber, steel, and other building materials. A crisis in agriculture would affect trucking companies, food processors, and grocery stores. This interconnectedness means that even if your job is not directly in one of these sectors, you would likely feel the impact. US-born workers could even lose their jobs as businesses shrink or shut down due to labor shortages and decreased consumer demand, creating a cycle of economic decline. The consequences of mass deportations would extend far beyond job sites and into American homes. Many families rely on the affordability of services provided by undocumented workers. For example, a shortage of childcare workers would drive up costs, making it harder for parents, especially mothers, to afford to work. Some might have to leave their jobs to care for their children, leading to a loss of household income and a smaller overall workforce. Similarly, families caring for aging parents would face higher costs for elder care, adding immense financial and emotional strain. The support systems that millions of Americans depend on could become fragile or break down completely. Furthermore, the impact on government programs like Social Security and Medicare could be severe. Undocumented immigrants, despite their legal status, contribute billions of dollars to these systems every year through payroll taxes deducted from their wages. They pay into these programs but are generally ineligible to receive benefits from them. If this large group of taxpayers were removed, it would mean a significant loss of funding for Social Security and Medicare. At a time when these programs are already facing long-term financial challenges due to an aging population, this sudden drop in revenue could accelerate their path toward insolvency, affecting retirement security for all Americans. The economic turmoil could also create a climate of uncertainty that discourages investment and spending. When businesses and consumers are worried about the future, they tend to save more and spend less, which can slow down the economy even further. The social disruption caused by such a policy could also have economic costs. Widespread enforcement operations could create fear and division within communities, potentially harming social cohesion and trust in institutions. The United States' reputation on the global stage could also be damaged, affecting international trade and investment relationships that are important for economic growth. In summary, the proposal for mass deportations carries significant economic risks that could touch nearly every aspect of American life. The plan could trigger severe labor shortages, leading to higher prices for essential goods and services like food, housing, and care. Experts warn of a potential recession, a decline in GDP, and a major funding crisis for vital programs like Social Security. Rather than protecting American workers, the disruption could lead to job losses and increased financial hardship for families across the country. The challenges presented by this policy are not just logistical or humanitarian, they are deeply economic, with the potential to destabilize the very foundation of the nation's prosperity